Have you wanted to learn brush lettering, but you haven't known where to start? Or maybe you've been trying some lettering and learning lettering, but you want to take your lettering to the next level with advanced skills like bounce lettering, flourishing, composition, and layout. Hi, my name is Shelly Hitz. I'm the owner of Your Creative Adventure and now the author of this book, Brushstrokes Workbook. And in this video, I'm going to share with you my lettering ladder system. This is my brand new Brushstrokes Workbook. In it, I teach my lettering ladder system. So what is the lettering ladder system? Well, the lettering ladder system is a system to help you succeed because it starts with the easiest concepts to master and gradually adds more difficult aspects of lettering. So it includes monoline lettering, fake calligraphy or faux calligraphy, the anatomy of each letter, brush lettering, so connecting the letters and creating words, bounce lettering, and flourishing. And I'm going to show you an example of each of these steps in this video. And so what I want to do is I just wanted to show you really quick what the workbook looks like. Yay! Thank you for everyone who has ordered. But I did this on a top spiral. One of the reasons art books are just really nice to have, with nothing hindering the sides. But then also for any of you lefties, the spiral will not get in your way when you're trying to letter inside the book. Yay, right? And then I have had it printed on really, really smooth paper. So this paper is super, super smooth. It's 24 pounds or 70 pounds, however. There's different things in printing, the different terms, but it's really, really smooth and it won't fray your brush pens and it won't bleed through. So you can actually just write to your heart's content. There's 170 pages, double-sided, of goodness. There's so much packed in here. I didn't leave anything out. I could have literally made this into 4 different workbooks, but I wanted to just have everything in one workbook for you so that you'd have everything that you need. Let's dive into the lettering ladder system. I teach you in this workbook, I teach you 9 different styles of lettering, but the classic style that I teach is my ink dance style in the small pens, but then also you have in the large pens as well. But this is showing you my lettering ladder system, and I created 10 of these practice sheets for you in the workbook. And what I did was I created them based upon the words you might use like in greeting cards. So this one's just a fun one, it's create, but then I did thank you, I did celebrate, I love you, congratulations, happy birthday, it's your day, praying for you, get well soon, just for you. And so you have all of these in the workbook that you can use to get started with to create cards. That's really fun. So you can actually, just write directly in the workbook. That's why I have had it printed on really nice paper. But you can also use tracing paper. So I'm just going to use tracing paper today. And this tracing paper is just a pad that I got at Hobby Lobby. And so it's really inexpensive. And at Hobby Lobby and at Michael's too, you can get coupons for Hobby Lobby. It's always 40% off. Michael, always 40%. But Michael sometimes has 50 and 60% off coupons sometimes. So I recommend getting some tracing paper and having that available as well. Practice sheets, what they do is they help you to develop muscle memories because that's what you're doing. It's like when you're practicing scales, and if you've ever played piano, or I played flute up through my 9th grade year of high school. I'm 43 years old right now and I still can play my scales on my flute because I practice them so much. So it's kind of like, learning your scales, but this first one here, this is monoline. And what I'm using is the Pentel Sign pen. So this is the Pentel Touch, and the Pentel Touch has the, let me just show you real quick. It has the thick and thin, has the brush where you can get like the thick and thin, strokes on it. The sign pen is just monoline. No matter how hard you push, you're not going to get a thick stroke. And I've had a lot of people say that they've bought these sign pens thinking they were the Touch. And then they're like, I can't get it to have a thick line. What am I doing wrong? It's just the different pen. But I like to have both of these because sometimes if I do script and print, I can do the script in the Touch and the print in the sign pen, and they're the same exact color. And so it works really, really well for that. But this sign pen is just monoline. You can use any marker, any pen, any pencil to do the monoline. And monoline is just that. It's one line. And you're just then going over the letters, getting that muscle memory of how the letters are created. It's really a lot easier to do because you're not focusing on the thicks and the thins. And, you know, I have seen some product creators recently that have they have lettering on mugs and different products, and it's monoline lettering. It's not even brush lettering or calligraphy. It's just monoline. And so just with this very first skill that I teach you in the lettering ladder system, the monoline, you can create some really beautiful things. And it's really the easiest place to get started. I know we all want to jump ahead. We all want to get into the fun stuff, you know, with the phrases and, you know, creating things, words and stuff in the beginning. But when you start with the monoline, it really helps you feel even more successful too. So the reason that I wanted to teach you the lettering ladder system and do it in steps is to help you build success, you know, one muscle at a time, one step at a time. And my husband actually came up with the name lettering ladder. Isn't that fun? And then you're going to do the faux calligraphy. Faux calligraphy is basically, it's the monoline, but then you're going to add thickness to the downstrokes. So I'm just going to go ahead and trace the monoline here. And then I'm going to come back and add. The second step of faux calligraphy is adding the thickness. And I think a lot of you probably downloaded my book, Calligraphy for Beginners. If you did, then you learned faux calligraphy. If you haven't, you can get my book, Calligraphy for Beginners. It's a short ebook on Amazon Kindle, or you can get my class for free at yourcreativeadventure.com/free. So this is the next step of the lettering ladder, and then you're just gonna, you know, you can just fill in these lines. Now, I first got into lettering because I wanted to create coloring book pages for my book, Broken Crayon Still Color. That was in June of 2016. And a lot of the coloring book pages, I just used faux calligraphy, and I left the openings open. I didn't fill them in because I wanted them to be able to color them in. So if you're creating coloring pages, that's something that you can do as well. And so that's the second step, and faux calligraphy is really a great way to get started. But with faux calligraphy, like I have a class on Skillshare. It's also on my site for free. People who have posted reviews, I mean, I've had people say they used what they learned right away to address wedding envelopes, or to, you know, create a piece of artwork that they sold, or things like that. And so it's so fun because faux calligraphy gives you that instant gratification. And so that's why, again, I wanted you to start with something that would give you a quick win, give you some instant gratification. So any of you can relate? I have like marker all over my finger. Anyone relate? The next step, so you have the monoline, you have the faux calligraphy. The next step is the anatomy of each letter. So that's where we're going to learn, you know, each letter one at a time. And I'm going to show you how I decided to set up the pages. So I have one page for each letter of the lowercase alphabet. And then for the uppercase alphabet, I have exemplars. They're called exemplars in calligraphy. Let me find a few of them for you here. There's 9 different styles that you'll learn. So like I have the copper plate calligraphy style, upper and lower case, and you can use these to trace out. Like I said, my ink dance, upper and lower case, this is large pen and small pen. And then I have, you know, sans serif, serif, urban groove, summer fun, freedom, block letters and others. So what I did is for each letter, I really thought about how I wanted to lay out this page. And the first step is to trace each stroke separately. So I teach you the basic strokes, and then I have you trace each letter. So then you put those strokes together into a letter. And then here you're tracing, and then you do it on your own without any tracing. For example, let's try pink. I like pink. You can put your tracing paper over here, and then you can just trace directly over and down. And so you can see here, I show you with arrows where to go, and then this will let you know when to pick up your pen. So with calligraphy and lettering, one thing that's different than handwriting, cursive handwriting, is you pick up your pen in between strokes, and this will help you to know when to do that. And so you just practice the strokes separately. And the Pentel Touch gives you a little bit thicker result than the other pens, but that's fine. You can still use the same basic thing. And then the next step is to trace the whole letter. So you're doing the thick on the downstroke, thin on the upstroke. And the cool thing about this workbook is I didn't just have worksheets. You can find worksheets all over the internet that you can use, and a lot of them are even for free. But what I have in this workbook, it's 170 pages. It's a lot of instruction. So it's not just, like here's a whole thing, tips for lefties. So if you're a left-hander, that's there. Here's about the basic strokes. There's just a lot of instruction in here. It's not just practice sheets, but there are a lot of practice sheets in here. Like here's the top 12 mistakes. One of them is just even how you hold your pen, and I give you very specific instructions on that. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make in my in-person classes. I go through a bunch of mistakes here. I give examples of what I'm talking about. It's a lot of instruction in here. So, you do get the practice sheets, but you also get a ton of really good step-by-step instruction, and so that's really fun. So then the last step, with the A, is just doing it on your own. So you trace each individual strokes, you trace the whole letter, and then it's time to take the training wheels off. Tracing is not cheating. Tracing is learning. And then you come down here and you can do your own. What I hope from this workbook is I'm giving you some different, styles that you can practice, and you can, feel free to use these styles. But what I hope is that by the end of the workbook, you're creating your own styles. So I have a whole section in the back that, talks to you about how to create your own lettering styles, the steps to do that. And so like I said, there's just a ton of instructional material in here. So here's the section on creating your own style. And I have a lot of images and illustrations in here to show you exactly what I mean. And I created all of these. These are all my artwork in here. And so there's just a ton of information, even just on that one section of how to create your own style. And how fun is this sheet? It's 30 ways to letter the letter A, and then you have a space to do your own and practice your own. So as you're practicing, it's not cheating. Tracing is not cheating because you're practicing, you're learning, you're developing that muscle memory. And then down here, in these practice sheets, I've given you space to experiment and practice below. I want you to eventually create your own style, to practice, experiment, learn, trace with the, in the beginning, get your feel for how it's going to work, and then, begin deciding what you want to do. Maybe you want your R to look different. So an R can have that loop on the top, or it can just be a straight. And I do both depending on the word. And I have a worksheet in the workbook that's on tricky letter combinations, and sometimes the R is one of the ones that really ends up being a tricky letter combination, so I show you different ways to adapt that. But there's so many different ways to just really make something your own. And so then you're going to come down here and do each letter. The monoline is first, then faux calligraphy. And with this, again, I have the arrows on there for you, so you can really just see how it's working, and you can practice each letter separately because, you know, again, if you run right into creating a word, that can be much more difficult because you're not only creating the letters, you're having to connect the letters. And I have a section in the workbook where I talk about and teach you what it, you know, means to connect the letters. But then the next step is then to connect the letters. It's the brush lettering. And then we're just going to practice the connections here. And you're lifting your pen in between strokes. That's your basic brush lettering. Now, I stuck with that kind of a style for a long time. I think it might have been even over a year before I really started adding the bounce lettering and the flourishing. So the bounce lettering and the flourishing is really, really, really fun. But if you try to incorporate too much of this in the beginning, it can get very frustrating and you can give up. So again, there is a method to the madness. There's a method to the lettering ladder. So this is bounce lettering. And bounce just means there's going to be things that come below the baseline. So the baseline is this main line right here. And you can see my R and my A have bounced below the baseline. So this is just a way to make your words a little bit more fun and creative. And then the last step of the lettering ladder system is flourishing. Flourishing is so fun. I have a lot of instruction in the workbook as well as worksheets specifically on flourishing. And so this is a really fun thing. Like I could have had that. I've seen some lettering artists, they sell all of these things separate. So you have to buy the bounce lettering workbook separate. You have to buy the flourishing one separate. But I wanted you to have everything in one workbook. And so you get everything. How fun is that? So that's the lettering ladder system. It is a 6-step system that I developed to teach you lettering, and it's a step-by-step, a progression of going from the easiest to the hardest, and it will help you develop that skill of brush lettering over time. You know, I talk about in the beginning of the book, in the introduction, you know, I talk about not being afraid to create ugly art. No one is an instant expert. And I said, don't believe me? Let me share a few pieces of artwork from the beginning of my lettering journey. So I was brave, and I don't see very many lettering artists doing this, but in my book, in my workbook, I put several of my initial pieces of artwork. This was actually done in acrylic paint, and it was one of the first ones, and I smudged the paint on it and I threw it away and I stomped away, and my husband's like, and I told my husband about it. He's like, Shelly, think about the message of that piece. Progress, not perfection. I was like, oh, good point. But look at these, like, look how far. I mean, I feel like I've come so far. I've been lettering, like I said, just over 2 years, and it was about 5 or 6 months into the process when I felt like I was really getting a handle on it, and that's when I started teaching on Skillshare brush lettering for beginners. I don't know if you guys have taken that class, but something really fun too that I have in the workbook is, let's see, I have a lot of fun stuff in the back of the workbook. There's all sorts of encouragement, there's journaling pages. This is a fun thing that I added. It's a before and after. So if you have bought the workbook, or if you're going to get it, fill this page out because I want to see it. It's a before and after. So the before is, you know, just choose a short word or phrase, and you put the date and you write down just right now today how you would do it. And then you put the after, and, you know, after going through the workbook, put it there. And then 30 days later, put, you know, your progress, and 6 months later, put your progress. The same exact word, phrase, and layout. And I really think you're going to see a huge difference, because I know I did. And, you know, as you practice, you know, you'll just continue to get better. And the cool thing about practicing lettering is it's very soothing, and it's just relaxing. It's a, you know, it's a form of self-care. You could call it creative self-care. So a lot of times I'll just do the alphabet, because I just, if I don't practice on a regular basis, I get rusty. And so, you know, I might just be sitting here and do the alphabet. And, you know, now that I have a good handle on the letter forms that I use, I can just do this without really thinking much about it. And it can just be very meditative and relaxing. And so what I recommend is just not taking it too serious and really allowing yourself to enjoy the process, enjoy lettering, not worry too much about being perfect. Because if you're sitting here critiquing your work or criticizing like, oh, that I didn't do that exactly right, which I didn't, you know, I could sit here and just critique my work and then be tense and not really enjoy the process. Whereas art has really given me a beautiful gift. I am a recovering workaholic, and it's given me a beautiful gift of self-care, relaxation, yeah, it's just been amazing, you know, just all of the things that have happened since I started my art journey 2 years ago. So give yourself a little bit of a break, you know, don't try to be too perfect or be too hard on yourself. And you could take a notebook like this and one brush pen, or, you know, I even have a smaller notebook that I carry in my purse, and you can literally practice this anywhere. You can practice while watching television. You can practice while listening to music or podcasts. You can practice while waiting in the pickup line for your kids. You know, if you have kids that are still in school, you can practice anywhere, the doctor's office. And you know, it's something that it's very portable. You don't need a big art studio. You don't need a lot of expensive supplies. Literally, if you just have this book, you get a brush pen and maybe some tracing paper, you're set. Like that's, you know, all you really need. And so it just can be a really fun way to explore your creativity. And it does take time. It does take practice. You know, there's no easy button. There's no quick fix, but like I said, you can fit it into the few minutes of time that you have in your day, and you can, as long as you're practicing consistently, several times a week, or even if you can just practice a few minutes a day, even if you just do partial, like just do an alphabet, like that didn't take me that long, or do your basic strokes, do some things, and you will notice improvement really quickly as you are consistent. So, you know, I just wanted to share this with you. The lettering ladder system is how I teach brush lettering inside the workbook. The brush strokes workbook is now available at yourcreativeadventure.com/workbook. You can purchase the print workbook, or if you want just the PDF, you can purchase just the PDF version alone, and that way if you wanted to print it off or if you wanted to use it in your iPad for iPad lettering, you could do that. But that's available as a separate listing on my Etsy shop. But the pre-order bonuses are for the print version, and it ends tomorrow. So if you're interested, definitely take advantage of that. I still have a few more of the original artwork pieces. They're small, but it's just a fun little extra bonus that you can get too if you purchase by tomorrow. And again, like I said, it's top spiral bound, which I haven't seen any other lettering workbooks like that so far. I mean, there probably will be some more now that I've done this, but and then it's on really smooth paper. It won't fray your brush pens, it won't bleed through, and there's 170 pages of goodness in here. Lots of instruction, lots of practice sheets, and using my exclusive lettering ladder system, starting from Monoline Lettering, the easiest form of lettering, all the way up to Flourishing. You learn it all in this workbook. You don't have to buy like 4 different workbooks, 5 different workbooks. You don't have to pay hundreds of dollars for an online course. Like everything is here that you would really need. I really wanted it to stand alone, and I had it professionally edited. I also had 2 proofreaders go through it for me, and I had a couple advanced reviewers that are lettering artists and calligraphers, and I have been just getting really, really great feedback. But the reason I did that was I wanted it to make sure, okay, I understand this, but without any instruction, without any videos or anything else. I do have links to a few videos in here. So there are videos, a couple of videos linked in here that you can access. But without like a course or anything extra, can you understand it? Do you feel like it's, it makes sense? And everyone gave me some great feedback. I took their suggestions, made a few changes, and now we have the workbook. So I'm so excited to finally be able to share it with you. I showed earlier, I have a whole section of all about brush pens and paper, what my favorite ones are, and then I have this ultimate guide to brush pens. So what I did is I put together according to ink type, if it's waterproof, if it's acid free, if it fades with time or not, if you need it to be archival, if it comes in colors, all of these things. And then I listed out all the different pens and wrote what all of them are. So you can really decide which ones are best for you. And then I have them all listed out with, this is almost to size, just a little bit smaller than original, but it shows you kind of the differences in the thickness of strokes that you'll get with each of the pens as well. So yeah, I cover that. This really is an instructional book. So I really tried to cover almost everything that you would need. Like I said, without having to be in a class with me. And then I have a whole section, an advanced section, once you're ready for it. If you're a more advanced letterer, you will be ready for this maybe right now. I put together a lettering layout tips section, which is on composition, which is basically your layout or your composition is how you put words together or in a phrase, into an art piece, a finished art piece. So for instance, this was one I just did last night. Isn't that so pretty? I'm learning how to paint light in watercolor, and it's my new favorite thing. I love it. But like how I did this shine bright, with the flourishing, you can see I put the H up and then the G I came down, and they kind of parallel each other, and so it gives your eye movement to follow. And so it's just even just putting two words together can and then I thought, do I want to do one script, one print? But I wanted to just do these both script. So your lettering layout is, how you do that. So I have a 7-step process, and I did a ton of research, used all my own experience as well, but I just pretty much compiled everything that I could find or read on layout and composition into a simple 7-step process for you, because composition is very, very complex. And so I hope you really enjoy that section. But I wanted to show you something in the composition section. I don't know if you guys know Stephen Kuntz and Ian Bernard. They are both very well-known lettering artists, and they have created a tool called the Grid Builder. And I purchased the Grid Builder, and it makes grids so that you can do your composition. It has lines in it so you stay your spacing consistent. It has a center line so you know where your center line is, and there's just a lot of things that really make it easier for you. But I purchased it, and I asked Ian, I said, I'm creating this workbook. Would you mind if I included some of your, the Grid Builder in there, and then linked to where people could purchase it if they want it? He's like, sure, feel free. So I got his permission, and how fun is this? I have one page that's just 15 shape examples from the Grid Builder that has all the different things that, they've added to it. The little, hash marks, to show you where the center of that shape is, the dotted center line to show you where the center, of your space, from top to bottom is, the straight lines. But this is really helpful. I do recommend purchasing their product because I love it. It's really, really helpful, especially if you do iPad lettering, but any type you can print it out even and use it. But this is a really fun thing in there as well. But I've just included a lot in here. I even have a section on how to do patterns, and patterns are very meditative. I have a Skillshare class and a class on my website all about this, and the reviews I get, people are like, oh, it's just so relaxing, it was so fun, it was so, it's like very meditative. And I teach you botanicals. This is a lettering book, but you're also learning other skills. And so you can see there's just a ton of stuff. And then I have a bunch of borders and banners that you can use with your lettering. And that's really fun. I have journaling prompts. this was kind of a fun section. One of the things that can happen sometimes is when you're creating is you can have some creative block. And this is something that I personally did. I wrote out and brainstormed a list of artist date ideas. And an artist date is just a specific block of time to nurture your inner creative and refill your creative well with images, ideas, sights, sounds, smells, etc. And so this was my list that I came up with of things that would nourish me. And as I've been integrating this, really, I started probably last summer. It has been amazing. It's why I have a hammock. You can't see it, but it's right out there on my patio. And it's why I have a teacup bird feeder right there. Like I can see the birds as I'm creating art, because I did that on purpose intentionally. It fills my creative well. It's why I have a hummingbird feeder outside of the guest room where I do my computer work for my office, And so anyways, I did that, and then my graphic designer, she did all this design for me, but now you have space to brainstorm what's going to be nurturing to you. What's going to fill your creative well? So I have stuff like that in the workbook. And then all throughout the workbook, I have different quotes. And my graphic designer, I love how she did this. We had to, work through several different variations, but this specific quote says, "An artist cannot fail. It is a success to be one." Charles Horton Cooley. And I love that. And this is on the page of Embrace the Artist in You. And I said, have you ever said, I'm not an artist or I can't draw? And, it's, I have, this section on Embrace the Artist in You, and as well as a journaling section for you to journal through that. But just so much. I could talk about this workbook probably all day. Well, actually, I will be doing a full day workshop based upon the workbook in October. But I'm just so excited to finally have this finished. This is what the back looks like. There's me. And, I did, I have assigned it an ISBN. It's official. It's barcode, everything. So really excited about this. It's different than any other project or book that I've done before, but it's really, really exciting. So thank you guys so much for your support, for those of you that have purchased, that have just encouraged me along my journey. And I really want to encourage you in your creative journey. So that is my goal. That is my hope. That when I'm posting artwork, or when I'm posting, and I have resources like this, that it helps jumpstart you. Because, exploring my creativity has really transformed my life in a good way. Like, I think as an adults, we can think, oh, it's, it's just an extra. It's like in school they call art an elective. It's not one of the core competency classes, but art really is. It does something. It brings something alive in us. Creativity, whether it's creativity through your cooking, through your writing, through art, through lettering, through music. There's so many forms of creativity, and so I'm not limiting it just to lettering, but it brings something alive in us. And my husband, more than anyone, he's like, Shelly, I have seen you just, radiate so much joy as you've explored this area of creativity. And I've tried a lot of different things, but it's lettering and watercolor. Those are the things that, for me personally, I love the most. Now, for you, it might be pastels, it might be colored pencils, it might be Bible journaling, it might be something different, but find what makes you come alive and explore your creative gifts that God has given you, because we all have them. No one has been left out. We all have creativity. We can all be creative. I really believe that if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I honestly thought I didn't even have like an artistic bone in my body. I went to medical school. I was a physical therapist in, my previous career, and I didn't think I was creative. And yet there's this creative gift that has just flown out of me, and it's like continuing to flow, and it's continuing to grow. I'm continuing to become a better watercolor artist, a better lettering artist as I continue to practice, I put my stuff out there, and This is fun. I put a calendar in here, which is a 30-day art calendar where it helps you just develop consistency, and you can write down the days and stuff, and you'll get one of the bonuses for those of you that purchase the workbook. You'll get a downloadable PDF with this calendar, but then also I have a bunch of blank pages, practice pages in the back. You'll get a PDF with the practice pages as well. But here it is. It's like a 30-day challenge that I put in the back, and there's 30 creative art prompts that I have for you. And then there's the 30-day creative lettering challenge, which I just give you different ways to kind of do your lettering. But then there's the prompts. So yeah, here's the 30-day challenge. That's kind of what after you finish the workbook, I encourage you to do the 30-day challenge. And I talk about like my very first lettering challenge in November 2016. It was the 30 days of Bible lettering, led by Stefan Kuntz. And he's also the one that did the grid builder. So Stefan and Ian are both Christians, which it's amazing to support Christian artists like that. But anyways, participating in his challenge, November of 2016, I did every single day, and it really was the turning point for me with my lettering. And so I encourage you to do something at the end, and I give you a bunch of prompts that you can, things to letter. Sometimes you just don't know what to letter, and here's a bunch of ideas of things to letter that I've put in here for you. But when I did that challenge, I decided, I don't think I want to like be spamming my regular followers with all of these, art pieces. And so I decided to create my Instagram account, which is currently Your Creative Adventure. But previously, if you have been following me a long time, my original handle was Color My World Beautiful. And so I started that Instagram account just to do that 30-day lettering challenge. And I didn't realize just by being consistent, posting my work, being part of the creative community on Instagram, because it's amazing. If you're not active on Instagram, the lettering community and the art community is just amazing. I mean, Facebook is great too. I love Facebook as well. Facebook and Instagram are the places. I mean, I know Pinterest is a great place to post things, but for community, Instagram and Facebook. So just doing that step and creating that account has literally like changed so many things for me. And so I just want to encourage you to take a step. Be brave, post your work, get involved maybe in a challenge, maybe invest in something like this workbook. The workbook is $35 plus shipping. So it's not, I could have charged a lot more for as much content that you get and all of the instruction that you get, but I wanted to still make it affordable. So, you can invest in something like this. There's a lot of great classes you can take, but, online classes, I have a ton of them on Skillshare on my website, but just encourage you to explore your creativity, get out there, start doing it, and I love, be excited to see all the things that you create. If you do get the workbook, make sure to post your work and tag me, Your Creative Adventure, and then use the hashtag #brushstrokesworkbook because I'd love to see your work. But thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.